Welcome to the Win Win Evangelism Podcast. I'm Tina Waldrom from Evangelism in Australia. I love helping you and your church feel confident and inspired to share Jesus consistently. Today's interview with Stuart Maclean, we're going to talk about AI for Christians, how to use artificial intelligence for evangelism. So you're a senior technical sales specialist working with data and artificial intelligence in that technologies area for a global tech company, 30 plus years in the industry. Very exciting. Tell us in simple terms, what does AI even mean?
I think to simplify it, we think about humans doing activities, and AI is really where computers can actually perform those activities on behalf of a human. I think people seem to think that AI is this all-knowing, all-understanding kind of entity where you can just ask questions and it will give you the right answers.
And obviously not.
No, not at all. I think AI is very good in very specific spheres, but it is not an all-knowing, all-understanding entity. It can't think and reason like a human. Really, mathematical concepts being applied to data to serve up an answer.
Okay, so all right, let's back that up a little bit, because I think that some of the fears as a Christian is that we think, or people may think, oh, is AI God? Does it know everything? Is it going to give me the correct answer? Just give me, I don't get too technical on me, but tell me, how does it actually work? Let's take Chat GPT. Like, how does it even work?
So ChatGPT is a what they call a large language model, and it's being trained. All AI needs to be trained on data. So for ChatGPT, it's been trained on a myriad of data. If you think about all the data that you can access on the internet, that is the input into an AI capability like ChatGPT. So it only knows what it's been trained on. And there you see some of the limitations, because it could be trained on things that are incorrect, that have biases, all of those kind of things. And therefore, it can be subject to answering your questions based on that training information.
Yeah, okay. So that's very interesting, because I didn't realize that AI could be biased.
Oh,
So,
it can be, absolutely. It can be biased, it can hallucinate. That sounds like, huh? Hallucinate? What does that mean? That means the AIs are trained to give an answer. In other words, you give it an input and its goal is to please you and it wants to give you an answer. It will hallucinate that answer. It will make it up. It will just go and it will confidently present an answer to a question that to you as the receiver, oh, that sounds really confident. And it's totally unfactual, untruthful, and incorrect.
okay, so how, just generally then, how do you, if you're engaging with AI and it's helping you do something just in general, how do you then fact check it? Do you actually go back and ask it to clarify, just to help you be a safe user of AI? What do you do?
Yeah, I think there's probably three spheres of areas. It depends on the activity that you're doing. If I'm asking AI to maybe give me a recipe with these ingredients in it, then that's probably not going to be detrimental to my life, right? And so I always say trust but verify, trust but verify. And if you see something that just doesn't make sense, you can ask the AI, what's the source of that information? And many AIs today will actually give you links to where the source of that information that it's using for that. The thing there is that sometimes when you ask it for the source of something that's not factual, it'll go, oh, I'm sorry, I'm wrong, and it'll fess up to its problem. So it's about learning how to interact with the AI and challenging it. You can ask AI to be critical of its own response. So you can ask it, is that really true? If something doesn't seem right. And I think some of the challenges is probably learning how to actually interact with an AI so it doesn't get confused after a period of time. So you can be more specific about what you ask it and how you ask what you ask it, and we can learn to interact with it to get better and more accurate responses.
Yeah. Okay. So that's what I know about AI. So I did a bit of learning when we were first, talking about this. I know you've been
Mm.
in the industry for 30 plus years, but just getting into it, I realize you've got to be very specific and keep honing the question with the AI. Tell me about how you personally, as a Christian in the industry, use AI.
Well, I use AI every day. Obviously, I'm using it to demonstrate to customers, but I use it in my job. So, uh, meetings, for instance, taking meeting minutes, creating action items from those things. I'll use AI that is converting speech, audio, and video into text so that I can take that out. So that's in my job. I'm using that every day. I'm using AI to research. It's a very fast moving industry. One of the great things about AI is researching. And then as a Christian, I will use it to help me get an understanding of a person's circumstances. Let's say I've met somebody new and I'm trying to better understand the challenges in their life to be able to build a relationship with them. I might use AI to ask questions about that. I think there's probably when we're as a Christian we're trying to influence people. Our testimonies are really relevant, and I can use AI to help hone the language of my testimony into everyday speech, into short snippets, so that I don't, for instance, take 10 minutes of dribbling on. Right, I can say create for me a couple of short sentences in language that I would use to explain a testimony. So that's one way. You could, if you're running a small group, you might say, "Hey, I've got some people in my small group are dealing with these personal issues in their lives. What does the Bible say about those issues? And what scriptures are relevant? And then could you help me come up with some questions for discussion to help us explore that?"
Okay, yeah, that's really powerful. And of course, you're going to be, as a Christian, you can go look at the scripture yourself, can't you? You can go have a look, whether physically in your Bible or look online, and you can do some research on the background of that, and you can validate basically what the AI is saying. Look, go back and tell me a little bit more about that word hallucinate. AI can hallucinate because I love that. I love the terminology, and it helps me understand better.
So a hallucination, an AI is effectively, or the AI that we're talking about that's generating textual output or things like that. It's designed to be effectively a word predictor. We call them tokens, and it brings it's basically telling us what the next token is likely out of all of its training data. It's doing that. And when it doesn't have something in its training data that would reflect where that answer's going, it will just go to a set of tokens that are the next probable match, which is likely to be a hallucination, or effectively it'll make something up. So you can get something, and I see it in my work. I see it where I'm asking questions about our products. For instance, I support a portfolio of products, all of which have AI, and I don't know the nuances of every single product. So I often ask our AI, "Can you tell me about features in this product?" And it comes up and says, "Well, you can do this and this and this." And I look at that and I go, "That doesn't look right," and so it's hallucinated that, or it's found something that's approximate. It might have been in another product and it's missed the context. So when an AI hallucinates, it's because of its understanding of the context that we're talking about. So the context is very important, and that's why we'll talk about talking to an AI. The technical term is prompting an AI. We try and give it a context. We'll say, "Hey, your name is Tina Waldrom. You run an organisation called Evangelism in Australia," and we'll give it as much information about that. And we'll say, "Now answer this question based in that context." And so, I don't know if that helps. If you ask really kind of uh, questions that are lacking that sort of context, then the AI can drift. Right? It'll just drift. It won't be able to stay within the boundaries.
Yeah, okay, it's so super interesting, Stuart. So what I'm kind of getting from our conversation is, I guess it's okay to feel a little bit apprehensive about AI and have some
Absolutely. Yeah.
concerns about it because it can hallucinate and it can drift. But what you're saying is there's some things that we can engage by giving it more specific information to stop it.
Yeah, and you can use more than one AI. There's enough free AIs out there that you as a user could just using your, a Google browser can use without actually having to pay for anything. And so you can ask the same question of multiple AIs. And then you can come back and create what I call create a new session. Don't create the same don't use it in the same chat window, if you like. Create a new chat. So that gives the AI a fresh start with a new context, because sometimes in a long conversation, the AI will lose track. That's part of the challenges that we have today. Short, sharp stuff, very good. Create me a summary of this. Translate this from this language, from English to Italian. Great. Give me a recipe. Great. But a long dialogue, kind of like what we're having now back and forth, at some point it's going to start to lose contextual pieces of information that's important. And therefore its answers will drift and potentially be inaccurate.
It's just so interesting. I know that you live in this world, but it's just fascinating for me to hear it. And I'm sure as you're listening today, you're probably having some aha moments. Is it effective? Let's say, for example, I want to plan out with my small group, or imagine if I'm even a senior minister, I want to plan out, say, 6 months or a year of, effective outreach and whatever that's going on through our small group or through our church. Is it any good at that?
It's fantastic at that sort of stuff. That's probably one of the great areas is actually, research and planning, and you can give it a real context. So you could, as a minister, for instance, you could say, these are the important doctrinal things that I want to cover over a period. We've got these events that we have. We do things at Easter and Christmas, and we have these other activities that we do monthly in our church. Can you help me plan out some teaching topics that would correlate with some outreach with some of the ministry groups that I have in the church? If you give it all that context, it would give you a suggestion list of, hey, you could do this, this, and this, and this, and then you could use that and then refine and have the AI and refine that. And you can say, oh, that's really good. How could I take those same themes, for instance, into a Sunday school program, dumb it down for kids, if that makes sense, not so much dumb it down, but modify it for the language and things like that. Or is there a way that I could incorporate something that we're doing in the Sunday school on the same theme with something that happens in the, the main auditorium? So I think there's lots of things that you can do. It's fantastic at planning, at scheduling, at giving you those kind of ideas.
Yeah, okay. Well, that's a bit of a game changer. It's almost like a personal assistant that you can have on your side.
Very much so. Like if I was to give you an example, my parents, right, they're in their 80s, and my dad would spend weeks, literally, they're grey nomads, they travel around in their caravan, and they literally spend weeks planning a trip, a 3-month trip, and we only travel 400 kilometres a day. We want to stay in caravan parks that are, of this size. And I said to them, how long does that take, Dad? He goes, it takes me weeks, and I've got to ring everybody and do all that. I said, I sit there. We literally planned his next trip in 10 minutes. And I said, let's give the AI the context. You only want to do this many kilometres a day. You want to stay at one location, no more than these days. You want to stay in this kind of accommodations. Give us a list. Give us a map and a list of all the phone numbers that he can call. Out it came. And he was floored, So you think that's the time-saving aspect, and you can do that. And that's really part of the value of AI. It's I think one of the fears that Christians as well as everybody else has, what about my job? Where's it all going? We like to say that AI is augmenting human capability, not replacing it. So some jobs will go, yes, the lower grade ones, the repetitive stuff that's mundane. But if you think about every industrial revolution, some jobs always went and new ones came. And we're in that phase. We just have to kind of not get caught up in the fear hype. Things will change. We change with it. I always like to think God is bigger than what we as humans are able to do. He knew about AI, when he created the world. He has a plan for us to live in that successfully.
Yes, amen. I love that, because if I think back honestly to let's talk about websites. So when email came out and websites, I can still remember, I'm just talking about the Christian community because that's where I live my life, but I can still remember the conversations of people saying, oh, I don't know if we need a website. And today, you wouldn't dream of being a church without it's just not a conversation that you have anymore. And I feel like this is what's going to happen with AI, like as we go on. Like it's not going away, is it?
No. And if you think about that realm of what a website was, right? It's about communicating who you are and what you do and what's happening and how to connect with us, right? So what's happening in the AI world, websites will kind of just go away, right? Agents, AI agents are literally coming to the forefront. And so a church will need to have an AI agent that is actually talking with other AI agents about its capabilities and can talk to people about, we will come to a point where it is very, in the next few years, everything will be voice. We'll just talk to things like you and I are having a conversation now, and we'll be talking to an AI agent. So I'll be talking to a church's website and go, hey, tell me about this ministry and tell me when you open and da 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 da. And there'll be an agent there that's representing. That's what I see anyway for the future. It might be a few years down the track, but that's where it's going.
Okay, so that you've taken us to a whole new level now because
Yeah.
what I
Sorry.
understand that it's okay, but people are interested. So we
Mm.
have this generative AI, which is generating words and like we're talking about Chat GTP. But let's talk about this agentive AI, yeah, but keep it really simple, Stu. I mean, really simple because you are so far
Okay.
down the track. What is this agentive AI?
I think you used a good example before. You said it's like a personal assistant, right? In the sense that, so if you think about an agent, right? I'm going to try and make it Christian in its sense, right? But an agent has a scope of things that it can do, and it has decision making capability and a set of tools that it can use. So you could say to an agent, read my email and respond to those that are of a particular if it's a complaint, make a response, say, I'm sorry, or something like that. One of the things I think everyone's probably used websites where you go and try and find the best interest rate for bank loans or the best health insurance, find my insurance broker or whatever. An agent will actually do those things. Right? The agent will go out and talk to other parties and get information and then make a decision and go, that one's the best one, and I'll use tools now to go and sign it up. And tools can be anything. If I give you an example maybe of a personal agent that I use for my work, I travel for my job across Australia and New Zealand, and so I'm always in a plane somewhere having to organise transport and whatnot. I now give my agent my flight number and my date. I just go, I'm flying out on QF on a date. Don't tell it anything else. And here's my return flight. It goes and actually says, okay, it will go out and it will use a website that exists out there and pull the information on that flight. So now it's got the airport, the time, the location. Depending on if I haven't given it an origin, it'll assume I'm traveling from home. But if I've given it an origin like someone else's address or a business address, it will take that. It will go and use Google Maps APIs to work out transit times from those locations. It will put in a buffer automatically of 90 minutes for boarding and traffic issues. And then it will actually send an email to my driver and say, hey, you need to pick Stuart up for this. Then it will go and send an email to, my wife has some carers, she's got some disabilities. It will send an email to that organisation saying you need to change the care roster to cover that. Now that all used to take me about 20 minutes every time I travel, right? Which is a bit of a pain. And so I went, I'm going to use my technology that I sell to do that. And it's fantastic. So now it takes me 30 seconds to type it in and get a response, and it's done. It's a very
Okay.
specific task with a very specific scope, and AI is good at specific stuff.
Yeah. Okay. So it's very much is that personal assistant. Tell me, for you personally, what excites you the most of what's ahead in terms of AI? And do you have any concerns as a Christian?
I think I'm excited about how I can use AI to remove some of the things that are just tedious and time consuming, right? One of the things that I really enjoy about the AI that I use today is that I can get up to speed on a topic very quickly because AI has a wealth of information out there. So I can use it as an education tool to help me understand a subject area, investing in the stock market or, doing things like that. I can ask questions. And because AI, the way it works, you can say, explain this to me like I'm a 5-year-old. right? And so you can get very complex, subject areas and have them explain to you and go, okay, now I get it. And so it's a great research and education tool. It's very good at finding the needle in the haystack, finding patterns in things and surfacing stuff. And so I can see it as it starts to become more pervasive. I think it's probably more pervasive today than people realize, right? If you've got a Netflix subscription, there's AI there. Every time you give it a thumbs up, you're sending a signal to their AI model, your Spotify or this or that. If you've got an Alexa or something like that in your home, where you go, hey, Alexa, turn on the lights or whatever, that's AI listening to your voice, taking that audio input, converting it to text, and then understanding that text to be able to go, what do I need to do to automate, whatever that process is. So I think AI is out there. It's in our cars using Google Maps. It's very pervasive already, but people aren't going, oh, that's not the AI that I'm seeing, right? It's been there a long time and it's growing. And now what we're seeing is all of that capability coming together. So we're seeing things like the ability to produce video output, right? And audio output I can give an AI 30 seconds of your voice and 30 seconds of your face on this thing. And it can basically just, make you do and say anything, right? So that's very powerful, right? And it's also very scary because bad actors will use that capability to, for scams and things like that. And, I've seen some of those things impact businesses as well. So I think it's like any new technology. It's like when websites came out, you mentioned that. There was a whole lot of fear about what we don't know and about how we're going to deal with it. It takes a little while for for regulation to catch up. We're in that same phase now. GPT, you mentioned that earlier. That really brought AI to the general user. I think that ability to chat with an AI really made it kind of come into everyone's lounge room. People were using it in business and whatnot. And companies now, I work with a number of companies where they've got corporate policies that say, everybody's got to use AI. Here's some tools. Here's some Microsoft. Here's some, IBM. Here's some Google, whatever. Start using it. And so people are learning and growing. So I'm excited about the pervasiveness of it, where it's going. I'm excited about robotics, right? But there's a lot of fear mongering about robotics taking over the world. Everyone goes to the Terminator movies, but you can see advances in medical, in robots doing operations, and doing them 100% successfully. So there's lots of value that's going to come to society as a result. I think we have to, as Christians, we have to take an approach that we don't fear the change, right? We embrace the change. I think that the change is coming. It's going to come. It's here. And I think, if I look at what I hear in business and talking to people and to Christians, is everyone tends to fear what they don't understand. And so I say, well, then use the technology to educate yourself a little bit, play around with it, start simply, Go and
Yeah.
ask AI to build a recipe out of what's in your fridge, and see what happens.
Right, exactly. And I know I'm laughing, but I did that at the beginning. But this has been a fascinating discussion, and it's given me, again, just some simple understanding, Stu, of AI. It's given me some ideas of what I could do as a Christian in terms of how I can use this to be reaching out to understanding people around me a little bit more, even as a church pastor, if I'm planning things, and seeing it as a positive tool that's, within our reach, in our reach right now, to be leaning into it a little bit more. So I hope today, as a listener, that you've really gained a little bit of information here, that this can help serve you a little bit better. So you can stay connected with Stuart on LinkedIn, and I'm going to put his link in our show notes, and you can keep the conversation going with Stuart. Many people following him, and he's doing many talks all over the place. So I'm sure that he can get you some more information.
Can I leave one final thought? I think I was thinking about it as a Christian. You can get so many quick answers. You can ask, an AI about a verse in the Bible or this or that, and you get back a lot of information. And I think there would be a trap to use that instead of your relationship with God and asking Him and meditating on the Bible. So I think we have to blend both of those things. That it's not a replacement for having an intimate relationship with God.
Yes, amen. That's a great comment. Thank you so much, Stu.